I thought I'd seen the worst of it with Arrive scam, but this one is a different kind of low. We're talking about the ghost indigenous contracts, and it's enough to make your blood boil. Hey Canada, it's Earl. The federal procurement ombudsman Alexander Jeglich just dropped a report that he basically called a cascading failure. In plain English, it's the worst-run program he has ever seen in the history of his office. The government has this rule: 5% of all federal contracts are supposed to go to indigenous-owned businesses. It sounds great on a campaign poster, right? It's called reconciliation through the wallet. But the ombudsman found that instead of helping actual indigenous communities, the government basically left the vault door wide open for scammers. Here's the scam. Non-indigenous companies, big ones, are setting up shell companies. They find someone with indigenous status, put their name on the letterhead as a partner, and then use that person as a front to skip the line and grab millions in contracts. In the industry, they call it rent-a-feather. The indigenous person gets a tiny check for the use of their name, while the big, non-indigenous corporation pockets the rest. The ombudsman found that nearly $300 million in contracts went to companies that have since been kicked out of the Indigenous Business Directory. Now, you'd think Indigenous Services Canada ISC, the department with a multi-billion-dollar budget, would be checking IDs at the door, right? Wrong. The report found, in 75% of the files reviewed, there was zero evidence that the government even bothered to check if the company was actually on the Indigenous Business Registry before handing them the money. There's a rule that says at least 33% of the work has to be done by Indigenous people. The ombudsman found no evidence that the government ever verified this. Not once. They were so lazy that in some cases, departments asked ISC for an audit of a suspicious company and ISC just didn't respond. So the departments just went ahead and gave them the millions anyway. This is the ultimate Ottawa double talk. They stand up in Parliament, put their hands on their hearts, and talk a big game about reconciliation and empowering First Nations. But when it comes time to actually do the paperwork, they can't even be bothered to check if the company they're handing your tax dollars to is actually who they say they are. It's not reconciliation, it's a buffet for scammers. They've created a system where a fake indigenous shell company can get $19 million for an app, while the actual indigenous business owner down the street can't even get a call back. It's the same pattern, folks. They set up these high-minded programs with your money, they don't bother to monitor them, and then they act shocked when the well-connected middlemen run off with the bag. They're more interested in hitting their 5% target on a spreadsheet than they are in making sure the money actually reaches the people it was meant for. In Ottawa, reconciliation apparently means reconciling the fact that the money is gone and nobody's going to jail for it. Thanks for watching. Stay awake.